On a winter evening with a cold wind blowing outside, Jo and Mercer stood inside her grand mansion gazing through the large window at the snow falling. Silently, this mansion located in the heart of Manhattan was known for its luxurious exterior and elegant interior. To some it was a dream home, but to Joanne it felt like a cold, empty prison. The grand living room was adorned with extravagant chandeliers, designer furniture, and sophisticated artworks, yet she was the only one who lived there. Her wealth was among the greatest in the country. She had accumulated her fortune through real estate investments, growing it further through stocks and business ventures, building a lifetime of success. People regarded Joan as the epitome of achievement. However, despite her success and immense wealth, she was always engulfed by loneliness. She was in a position that others envied, but she knew very well that it did not bring her true happiness. The reason for her deep solitude was singular. Her daughter Emily had gone missing 30 years ago when she was just 7 years old. At an amusement park, the memory of that day still haunted Joanne, robbing her of sleep. It had been one of the rare occasions when she had decided to take a break from her busy business schedule to spend time with her daughter. She had taken Emily to the most famous amusement park in New York. That day, Emily had the brightest smile in the world, riding the attractions and eating cotton candy, but that happiness was short-lived. In just a brief moment of distraction, Emily vanished without a trace. Joanne immediately reported it to the police, and the entire amusement park was searched, but to no avail. There were no witnesses, no CCTV footage, and all of Joanne's desperate efforts to find Emily were in vain. As time passed, Joanne's despair only deepened. At first, she did everything within her power to find her daughter. She hired detectives, sought police assistance, and even got the media involved. But as the years went by, the world seemed to whisper cruelly for her to give up. For years after Emily's disappearance, Joanne would break into tears at just the mention of her daughter's name, but no matter how much she cried, all that came back was silence. Eventually, those around her told her she had to move on, but she could never fully let go. As 30 years passed, the memories of Emily grew faint, but the pain never healed. After losing her daughter, Joan had cut herself off from all human relationships, burying herself in work. Her days had been filled with chasing success, but in the process her own life had grown emptier and emptier. Now, with her business stable and thriving, there was nothing else she needed. She had all the money and fame one could ask for, yet the emptiness inside her only grew with each passing day. Lately, Emily had begun appearing more frequently in her dreams. In those dreams, Emily always reached out her hand toward her, but Joanne would wake up before she could grasp it, and upon waking, an overwhelming sadness and guilt would consume her. I should have protected Emily better. Why did I look away for just that moment? She sighed, deeply blaming herself. That evening, Joan had planned to prepare a meal for herself, but lacking the energy, she simply grabbed a cup of instant noodles. She knew she was isolating herself with this repetitive routine, yet the solitude felt oddly comforting. But at that moment, the phone rang. "Joe, and if you keep staying home like this, you're going to get sick," said her friend Lisa. "I know a little restaurant, cozy and welcoming, with great food and wonderful people. Come with me tonight." At first, Joe and refused, but Lisa's persistent persuasion eventually wore her down, and she agreed. A few hours later, Lisa picked her up, and they arrived at a quiet alleyway, slightly removed from the bustling streets of Manhattan. The exterior of the restaurant was simple, but the warm light spilling from its windows radiated an inviting atmosphere. As soon as they stepped inside, Joan was greeted by the comforting aroma of homemade food, accompanied by soft background music. The walls were lined with handwritten notes and photographs left by customers. On each table set a modest yet thoughtful flower arrangement. It was nothing like the high-end restaurants Joan usually frequented, but the place exuded a warmth she couldn't quite explain. "This is the place I told you about," Lisa said with a bright smile, leading Joanne to a table. Joanne felt slightly out of place, but followed Lisa's lead, moved by her friend's enthusiasm. A waiter approached with water and a menu, and after placing Their order. Joanne quietly observed her. Surroundings the restaurant was pleasantly lively but not overcrowded, with guests chatting warmly creating an inviting ambience. Her gaze wandered to a waitress who was moving efficiently between tables engaging kindly with customers. The name on her tag read Anna. She was a young woman greeting customers with an effortless smile as she served meals and exchanged words with them. Anna's attentiveness to each guest, her natural charm, and the way she took care of people left an impression on Joanne. Before she realized it, Joan found herself watching Anna closely. There was something oddly familiar about her, but when Joanne's eyes drifted to the necklace hanging around Anna's neck, her heart suddenly pounded. It was identical to the one she had given Emily 30 years ago, a small, delicate pendant shimmering silver, and engraved on the back was the name Emily. Joanne's breath caught in her throat as she stared, her mind racing. That's impossible, she told herself, yet no matter how much she tried to deny it, the necklace was unmistakably the one she had custom made for her lost daughter. Her hands trembled as she took a sip of cold water, trying to steady herself. How could this necklace be here? There was supposed to be only one in the world. Joanne kept staring at Anna, lost in thought, her heart hammering, but she couldn't bring herself to approach the young woman. What if she was mistaken? What if it was just a coincidence? If she confronted Anna and was wrong, her last shred of hope would be crushed there. Meals arrived, but Joanne couldn't focus on eating. Lisa, unaware of her friends' turmoil, chatted about how delicious the food was, but Joanne barely heard her. Her mind was consumed by a single thought. Anna and that necklace. Could Emily be alive? No, it's impossible. Life isn't that kind, she tried to convince herself, but deep inside a fragile hope began to take root. Eventually, she couldn't hold back any longer and turned to Lisa, that waitress. Anna, do you know how she ended up working here? Does she have a story? Lisa looked surprised at the sudden question, but then smiled. Oh, Anna, the owner recommended her. She's kind and hardworking. The customers love her. Joan listened, her thoughts racing. She needed to know more, but she wasn't ready to face the truth just yet. Even after their meal ended, she couldn't stop thinking about the necklace. Lisa, wait here a moment, she said, standing up and walking slowly toward Anna. Her heart pounded violently, her breath shaky. She locked eyes on the necklace as she carefully spoke. Excuse me, may I ask where you got that necklace? Anna blinked in surprise and instinctively touched the pendant. Oh, this, she said with a slight smile. It's very special to me. She gently ran her fingers over it. I've had it for as long as I can remember. My mother gave it to me. Joanne's heart stopped. Her mother, her voice trembled. Your mother? Anna nodded. Yes, but I don't remember her. I grew up in an orphanage. Joan felt the ground dissipate beneath her feet. An orphanage. Her breath came in shallow gasps as she grasped her chest. She knew this wasn't just a coincidence. Joanne's mind spun as Anna's words echoed in her ears. An orphanage. The necklace, the name Emily engraved on it. Every piece of the puzzle was falling into place, but she was terrified to believe it. She forced herself to take a deep breath, stewing her trembling hands. May I take a closer look at it? Joan asked cautiously. Anna hesitated, looking slightly puzzled, but Joanne's earnest expression made her nod. She lifted the pendant slightly, allowing Joanne to see it clearly. Joanne's heart pounded as she studied the intricate details, the delicate engraving, the subtle shimmer, and the unmistakable name etched onto the back. It was identical to the one she had given Emily all those years ago. A flood of emotions surged through her. She clutched her chest, struggling to contain the overwhelming wave of hope, fear, and sorrow. Anna looked concerned. Ma, you all right? Joanne wiped at the tears threatening to spill from her eyes. I just realized how special that necklace truly is, she said, her voice unsteady. Anna offered a small, confused smile. Yes, it's the only thing I have for my past. I don't remember my mother, but I was told she gave this to me before I was left at the orphanage. Joan felt as if she couldn't breathe. Emily had been 5 years old when she went missing. Anna had entered the orphanage at around the same age. It couldn't be a coincidence. Her heart raced faster, her emotions barely contained. Do you know how old you were when you arrived at the orphanage? Joan asked, her voice almost a whisper. Anna Thought for a moment I don't remember much, but they told me I was around 5. Joan's hands gripped the table to study. Herself 5 years old, it was the same time. Emily had disappeared, her pulse pounded in her ears as she forced herself to ask the next question, what's your birth date? Anna tilted her head at the odd inquiry, but answered April 15th. 1989. Joanne's world tilted. April 15th. Emily's birthday. It was her she was certain now, her daughter, whom she had searched for tirelessly, whom she had mourned for 3 decades, was standing right in front of her. Tears welled up in Joanne's eyes, but she held them back. She couldn't just blurt it out. This was too sudden. What if Anna wasn't ready for the truth? What if she rejected her? Joan swallowed hard, trying to gather her thoughts. The truth needed to be confirmed beyond doubt. There was only one way. She took a shaky breath and said, Anna, would you be willing to take a DNA test with me? Anna's brows knitted together. A DNA test? Yes, Joanne said carefully, her voice filled with emotion. There's a possibility that I might know something about your past. Anna studied her for a long moment, sensing the urgency in her words. A part of her was hesitant, but another part was curious. After a pause, she nodded. All right, I've always wondered about my past anyway. Joanne let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Thank you, she said softly. A few days later they sat in a sterile clinic waiting for the results. Joanne's hands trembled as she clutched a tissue in her lap. This was the longest wait of her life. If the results were negative, she wasn't sure she could survive the heartbreak, but if they were positive, her thoughts trailed off. As the doctor finally walked in with a sealed envelope, Joanne held her breath. The doctor opened the results and looked at them carefully. Then he lifted his gaze and spoke with 99.99% certainty, you are mother and daughter. The room spun. Joan felt her heart shatter into pieces of grief, of relief, of 30 years worth of longing. She reached for Anna, her hands trembling. Anna sat frozen, her breath shallow. Then tears filled her eyes. Joanne pulled her into a tight embrace, sobbing, I'm so sorry, she choked. I looked for you everywhere. I never stopped. Anna's arms slowly wrapped around her, her own tears falling freely. For the first time in her life, she felt something she had never known, belonging. The days that followed were overwhelming. Anna needed time to process everything. Suddenly having a mother, especially one as wealthy and influential as Joanne, was surreal. Joan gave her space, but she made sure Anna knew she wasn't going anywhere. One evening they sat together in Joanne's home sipping tea. Joan looked at her daughter with gentle eyes. Anna, is there anything you've always wanted to do? Something you've dreamed of? Anna thought for a moment before speaking. I've always wanted to open a little cafe, a place where people can feel at home. Joanne smiled. Then let's do it. Anna blinked. Mom, that's a big step. Joanne reached across the table, taking her daughter's hand. You deserve to chase your dreams, sweetheart. I want to help you over the next few months. Joanne and Anna worked together to make the cafe a reality. Joanne provided financial support while Anna poured her heart into designing the space. When the grand opening arrived, Anna stood outside staring at the sign bearing the cafe's name. She had named it Emily's Place. Joan teared up at the sight. This is your dream, Anna, she said. You made this happen. Anna turned to her mother and smiled. No, Mom, we made this happen. The cafe quickly became popular, not just because of its warm atmosphere and delicious menu, but because of the touching story behind it. Customers admired Anna's journey and Joanne's unwavering love for the daughter she had lost but finally found. Every day they shared meals, laughter, and conversations, making up for lost time. One evening, after closing the cafe, they stood outside looking at the stars. Anna turned to her mother and asked softly, Mom, do you think we'll really be happy now? Jo and pulled her into a gentle hug, smiling warmly. Of course, sweetheart, happiness isn't about what we lost, it's about what we build from here. And as they stood together, mother and daughter, under the vast night sky, they knew this was their new beginning. The past no longer defined them. Their future was theirs to create together.